Okay.
Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome Gesu parishioners to our webinar on online giving. During these unprecedented times, during the COVID-19, many of us, most of us, all of us couldn't come to church. Now we're starting to open up. But there were many of you who expressed graciously to continue to give your donation to Gesu so that we could continue as a church and thrive. And so Jim Hart, our operations manager, myself are putting on this webinar. We're hosting it. If you want to have the opportunity and take advantage of online giving. So we'll take you through the steps, and thanks for joining us. And I'll hand it over to Jim.
Thank you, Father Phil, and welcome to everybody. We're going to just run through the online giving section of our website so that just in case you have any questions about how to give online through the Gesu website, we can answer those for you. Let me just say before we start that if you have any questions that are of a more personal nature in terms of your own personal experience with navigating through this process, feel free to contact me directly. And the screen that you're seeing right now is the Gesu homepage. And if you look on the right side of that, you'll see the staff section. And if you click on my name, James Hart, you'll be presented with a contact form, and you can send me an email directly, and I'll be happy to respond to you personally with whatever kinds of questions you might have. So, without further ado, let's start. Father Phil, if you wouldn't mind clicking on the giving section of our website. And again, just as a reminder, you go to www.jesudetroit.com. That's our website. And then you proceed to the giving section. And here we are at giving. And there's a couple things you can do here. You can use PayPal, but I think for our purposes here, we're just going to stick to the online giving section and help you to navigate through that. So Father Phil, if you could click on online giving. All right, so here's the home page for online giving. And there's a couple of things you can do here. One is to create a new account, which we recommend. The other is to do a quick give, where if you look at the lower right part of your screen, you'll see you can give one time without creating an account. But we encourage you to create an account because that way all of your information is saved and you can feel free to give more easily in the future if you do create your account. So for our purposes here today, we're going to create a new account. Father Phil, if you could click on create new account up there toward the top of your screen. So we're at new user account registration. And the first thing it's going to ask you to do is to create your own user ID. Now this could be anything you want. You can see from the drop down there that Father Phil is going to use his own, Phil Cook SJ. You should use whatever is comfortable for you. You probably have your own user IDs that you use for multiple sites. So I would encourage you to use something that you can remember easily. The next step here in the field below is the password. And it's going to ask you to create your own password. And you have some flexibility in terms of doing this. Your password, though, has to be at least 8 characters. And it can be a combination of anything you want with regard to alphanumeric characters. So once Father Phil is done here creating his password, it'll ask him to confirm his password, and that just means that you type in to that field the same thing that you just typed in above in the password field. Below that, the confirm password section, there's 2 fields that you don't need to deal with, the registration code and the envelope number. You can just bypass those. In the middle part of the screen, you see it's going to ask you for your personal information. So your first name. So just type in your first name here. In Father Phil's case, he's typing Philip, his last name. And then again, when you are doing this, just type in your last name. And then the field below here is the email address that you're going to use to be associated with your new account. So you might have multiple email addresses. Make sure you choose the one that you're most comfortable using for your online giving account. And again, it's going to ask you to confirm your email address. So you'll just type it in again. And the field below that is your phone number. This is not a required field, but I would encourage you to put a phone number in there just because it makes it easier for the people at Online Giving to contact you if they need to for any particular reason. So Father Phil is putting in the number for Gesu Parish. Over there on the right for address information, you can see that it's asking you for address 1. That's the first field. What you would do here is just type in your street number and street name. In this case, Father Phil is typing in 17180 Oak Drive. That's the parish center, of course. Address 2, you can bypass that unless you have an apartment number or some other designation that makes it easier to identify where you live. For those of you who live in houses with just one address, you can leave this field blank. Down below, Father Phil, you can go to city, state. It'll ask you for the city in which you live. In many cases, that'll be Detroit. And then the field over to the right is the field for state. So that'll be MI for Michigan. The field below that is your zip code. It's asking you for that 5-digit zip code. You can type in your 4-digit extension if you want to, but if you don't know it, that's fine. You can just bypass that. So the next thing it's going to ask you to do here is to confirm that you're not a robot, and it's going to ask you to type in the code here. So Father Phil is going to type in the code, and then from there we'll move on to the next screen. So after that, he just hits submit. And there's a message above saying, do you want to save this login for future reference? For your case, everybody listening here, I think it would be a good idea to say yes to that, just so you don't have to remember what your login and password is every time you want to log in here. So the next screen says, Phil Cook, your new account has been created. So before you can log in and start donating, it's going to ask you to validate your email address. This is just to confirm that it's you. So to do this, you need to check your email account. The email that you just created a few minutes ago, the one that's associated now with your new account. So the way you would do that is just go to your regular email box, your inbox, wait for that email to come in. That's what Father Phil is doing right now. You can see he's got it right there. It says, welcome to Online Giving. Dear Philip Cook, to confirm your account, please click on the following link. So that link right there on the top line, that's what you would click on just to validate your account. Now, if you go back to the home page here for Online Giving, it says your new account has been activated. And then you can see in this case, Father Phil's user ID and his password show up automatically. And this should be the case for you too when you do create your new account. So what Father Phil is going to do here is just click on log in over there on the right side of the screen. Okay, so here's the home page. Once you've created your new account, you've got some choices here. And before we move ahead, I'll just run down just quickly what some of these are all about. Give a new gift, that's where we're going to go in a minute here. But below that is my personal information. And here you can view and edit your personal information whenever you want to. This is to make a change to your name, to your email address, to your postal address, whatever you need to do. Below that is my payment methods, and we're going to go there. That'll be the next place we go. But before we go there, Below there is my online giving history. Here you can check the history of your giving. And once you get a little history going, which we sincerely hope you do, here's where you can come in and just see what you've done. Then active online giving, view and edit gifts that you're actively giving to, such as pledges. So Father Phil, why don't you go up to my payment methods over here, that middle field. And the first thing that we need to do here is to create a payment method. Now there's a couple of different payment methods that you can use here. So Father Phil, if you could just create, or I'm sorry, just go to my payment methods, there you go. Now, if you look on the screen here, manage my payment methods, there's two types of payment methods you can use here. Now, for today's purposes, we're just going to use the My Credit Cards, but you can also do My Bank Accounts. What this means essentially is that you can create a bank account that's associated with your online giving. And what that means is that if you go in there, if you have your routing number for your bank account, in addition to your bank account number, you can go in there and have your donation to Gesu Church automatically deducted from your bank account. Now, what I'm going to recommend here is if you want to do that and you have some questions, please feel free to contact me directly in the way that we mentioned earlier on during the webinar here. And I'll be happy to walk you through that personally. As I say, for today's purposes, we're just going to go and create a credit card, which is what I think most of you will probably do. It says, if you look on the screen, you do not have any credit cards on file. Click here to add one. So you're going to want to click right there to add a credit card. Now, it should be noted there are two types of credit cards that you can use to process your gift. One is Visa and one is MasterCard. The card alias, that's the first field here, that just means nothing more than you picking the way that you want to identify your card. So if you have several different credit cards, this just makes it easier for you to identify exactly what card it is. So in there you can type in anything you want to just to make sure it's making sense to you in terms of identifying what card you're using. So the next field is the credit card number. And what Father Phil is going to do here is to stop the screen sharing for a moment, because we want to make sure that we're keeping confidentiality of Father Phil's private credit card information, and also the things like the expiration date. We want to make sure that's not going out publicly. But for all intents and purposes, you'll be entering your credit card here, and then the expiration date. And we'll wait for Father Phil to finish up here. And then when he's done entering in his confidential information, he'll start sharing that screen again so we can go back to where we were. And again, just in terms of confidentiality, for those of you who are going to enter your own credit card information, that information is encrypted on the online giving website, which means that you don't have to worry about it getting hacked or any kind of fraud occurring. Your information will be taken care of in a responsible way. So here we're looking at the card number again. That's just the final 4 digits of the card number, the expiration date, which you should put in, and then the year in the field to the right of it. For the billing address, this is important because if you do have an alternate billing address, one that does not associate with the address that you just put in at the beginning of this process, you're going to want to put in that address. Now, in Father Phil's case, the credit card that he put in is associated with the address that he entered in a few minutes ago. But if you have a different address, you do want to put in that alternate address. So now I think, Father Phil, you can just enter in that code. I think actually you might want to go up to that upper right-hand part where the billing address is, and then click on that X.
Well, I'm going to keep that.
Okay. All right, so Father Phil's going to keep that. And then again, it'll ask you to determine that you're not a robot, and Father Phil is going to enter in the code for security. Then when he's finished, he'll hit submit.
I got to go back and put my number
Okay, so Father Phil's going to enter in another credit card number here. And again, if nothing else, this does show you that the site here, the online giving site, is strict. You know, it wants to make sure that everything you're doing here is above board, and it wants to verify that everything you're doing here is correct. So we're running into a little bit of a snag here, but this is a good thing because it does show you that the site is trustworthy. So when Father Phil's done, we'll wait for him to start sharing the screen one more time. Okay, so this does bring you back to the Manage My Payment Methods. You can see that Father Phil's card was accepted. So why don't we just click on if you look to the right there, you can click on Give a New Gift. Now, before that happens, well, Father Phil's clicked here, but you can also put in another credit card on that screen if you want to. For today's purposes, we'll just move on here and we'll focus on actually creating a gift to give to Gesu Church. So here it says select one or more gifts below. For our purposes, it'll be the Sunday collection. We're talking about an offertory gift here. So if you look to the right there, Father Phil has his cursor on select gift type. And Father Phil, if you could just click on there and we'll look at the drop-down choices. There's 3 choices here. One is a recurring gift, which you can set up to occur as often as you want to, and we'll get into that in a moment. The other is a pledge, which you can set up to occur at a later date. And the other is a one-time gift, which, you know, just as it says, it's for a one-time gift only. And that doesn't mean that you have to give in a recurring fashion. Because we hope that you'll choose to give to Gesu on a regular basis, we're going to use the recurring gift as an example here. So Father Phil, if you could click on recurring. And what it says here for the Sunday collection is, I would like to make a recurring payment of dollar amount. So here, you know, Father Phil will put in just a dollar amount for an example. And in your case, you would put in whatever dollar amount you want to give on a weekly or whatever frequency you want to give. If you look at that drop down right there next to the dollar amount, you can choose the frequency with which you want to give: weekly, bi-weekly, which is every other week, monthly, quarterly, twice a year, yearly, whatever you feel comfortable with. So for our purposes here, we'll do weekly. And the system will then prompt you in that field to the right. It'll ask you, when do you want to start this gift? So Father Phil is going to click on starting on, and then a calendar is going to come up. And he'll be able to click on whatever date he wants to start giving. In this case, he's chosen June 7th. If you look on the field below, in the line below, where it says, please charge my, and then select account, Father Phil can just click on there for the drop-down. And any account that you've created, which in this case, Father Phil created his personal credit card, this is going to show up. If you create a bank account too, your bank account will show up. In this case, like we say, Father Phil has just created one. So he's going to choose that. In that field below, you can choose to remain anonymous if you want to. That just means you would click on there to remain anonymous. And again, that's entirely your choice. If you do want to remain anonymous, you can click that box. If anonymity is not an issue for you, you can just leave that box blank. And then the next button right there on the lower right, Father Phil is going to click on that. and it's going to ask you to confirm your gift. So there's an important message up there. Your donations have not yet been submitted. So it's just going to ask you to confirm everything that you've just done, just to make sure it's correct. So if you look at Sunday collection, it says, I would like to give $25 weekly. Please charge my personal credit card, and then the last 4 digits of the credit card number, starting on the date. And if this looks good to you, all you have to do is click on submit, and make sure to click on submit only once. It may take a moment or two to process, but you don't have to click on submit more than once. So Father Phil is going to click on submit here. And again, you've got a message of success here. Your gift has been processed, and then your receipt is detailed below. Again, if you have a printer, you can print this page for your records, but just for your convenience, the copy of the receipt will be sent to your email address, to the one that you entered in when you created your account. So with that, all you need to do here is click on finish. And Father Phil's going to click there. And at this point, it brings you back to your home page. Now, one thing I would recommend that you do, and you also want to make sure you sign out. We're not going to quite do that yet, but if you look at the upper right-hand corner, right under the image of Gesu Church, there's a sign out. So we recommend that every time you do use this page, you do sign out. But I also recommend that in your browser, which is either Windows Explorer or Chrome or Firefox, whatever browser that you use, you add this as a bookmark. So that way you can come back to it very easily. So Father Phil now is going to sign out. And again, it says, welcome to Online Giving. That's the home page. And from here, he can just close out of his browser, and that ends the process. All right, so thank you very much for listening to us today. And again, I'd like to reiterate, if you do have questions about anything with regard to the process, please feel free to go to the Gesu homepage, our website, www.jesudetroit.com. And if you go to that staff section on the right-hand side, click on James Hart. Feel free to send me an email. I'll be happy to get in touch with you personally. And with that, I'll hand it over back to Father Phil.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And I hope this was helpful. I had fun, Jim. Thank you. And please consider giving online. But most of all, let's continue to follow Christ together. God bless you, and peace.
Amen.